asked about, tell me a little about yourself and your work, I mean, I thought, I'm a mother. That's the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I'm a mother, and my children are 30 and 32. They're not babies, but
they'll always be your babies.
that's it. I am their mother, and I think of all the things that I've done in this department or just in my career, the thing I'm most proud of is raising 2 decent human beings.
Yeah.
That it's so funny you word it that way. You phrase it like I'm still learning. Like it's I'm one of these persons, but I'm always quoting Manny, right? And it's funny because people have like I'm like Manny told me this or Manny told me that because he was kind of the first person to talk to me about having a kid and going through that. And now that I have a kid, and I meet other people who have children or have grown children, you're right. It's like my life has become my little girl. That's my passion, and it's everything you do. And everything you do is for that purpose, right? It's definitely amazing.
Yeah, remember I told you, they make you want to be a better version of yourself.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Always. Because even if you didn't do it for yourself, for them, you will. You will do it, and you'll do more, and you'll work harder. It's,
that's the truth.
But that's part of being a parent.
Harder. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's the thing you have to get right. And you won't always get it right, but I think a part of being a good parent is having humility and saying, oh, mom made a mistake, mom didn't do that right, mom was really angry, mom shouldn't have said that, whatever. Owning that teaches your children that's how you get to navigate through life. Everything's not going to always be right, you're not going to always make the right decision, but owning it and fixing it is what you do.
Yeah, my admiration towards like people with older kids, parents now. Again, man, you're listening to someone like you. Again, just I get mind blown every day. She has a little boy too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you have a little one too.
Yeah. And I was just even thinking that at least for me, what has definitely changed is that I actually became a better daughter for my parents.
That's it.
I understand a lot more why they did certain things. And understanding that, they're not going to be perfect, and also taking that with me on my own path.
That's awesome.
With my son.
That is a true statement. You become a better daughter.
That's true.
It is. My daughter has called multiple times and said, man, you really love me this much?
That's so cool.
It's like, oh, yeah. So
that amount of gratitude, I think too, just this weekend, Sammy did this thing where she, early in the morning, I was still asleep. She literally, whole body on my face, and she's kissing my forehead. And she's like, thank you, Daddy, it's time to wake up. And I'm like, that is so cool. And then she did the same thing to my wife, and I'm like, that is really cool. It's one of those moments where, it's you go through all those emotions, the good ones, and you're just grateful. I'm grateful to have her.
And even the challenging ones with them, my son, I'm telling Jaime and Evelyn that it was a character building weekend with my son. And even those moments, even at my most frustrated times, he smiled even when he was not being very nice. And I would be like, I know, I love you too.
Well, this is a good way to segue into beginning our podcast. So I want to welcome everybody to, is it our 12th or 13th episode?
I think it's our 13th.
Yeah.
13th episode of Coffee with a Side of Healing. Again, my name is Jaime Gomez. I am here with the Service Area 7 PRC, and we're going to do what we usually do and do some popcorn. I do want to acknowledge a few things though. Today is Valentine's Day. So if you haven't done so, you need to get something together. Early in the morning, but I'm on it.
I love it.
I also want to acknowledge that we're commemorating Black History Month, which is very important to us here, not only in the department, but at our PRC. And we have some very special guests with us here today. But with that said, I'm going to popcorn to the new person, which is Theion Perkins.
Hi. I'm Theion Perkins, and I am the Acting Senior Deputy for Department of Mental Health, OCS, which stands for Outpatient Care Services. And I'm here today at the PRC, being a star, and just happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you. And I'm gonna popcorn to Manny.
Manuel Rosas. I'm like, who am I again? Manuel Rosas. I am the Service Area 7 Chief with the Department of Mental Health. And I get to work with these wonderful people here that you're seeing in front of your screen. I will popcorn over to Matilde.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Matilde Gonzalez. I'm a community health worker for Service Area 7 PRC. Thank you.
Thank you all again. Thank you for joining us and taking your time. I know how hectic things are lately. It's an understatement for me to say I'm busy. I know you guys are extremely busy, so I'm very grateful to have you all here. But I know we were already talking about it. I kind of like to do a little recap, and maybe you can share with us a little bit about who you are, what you do, or what your role is a little bit in the department.
Okay. So again, my name is Theion, and my role as the acting senior deputy, at least as I see it, is to really make sure all our outpatient care services are running well and that we are reaching the people that we need to and providing them good service. But more than that, this unique opportunity, I think my role is to bring us together, to kind of be the conduit between each service area, that there is unity across our system, but across our county for mental health. I want to be a part of the change that changes this department, that we really stand up and are proud of the service that we provide and the communities that we serve. I want to make sure we onboard people that have the heart to do this work, to actually care. And I want to love my staff intentionally, which is probably not a PC word, a word that you would use in government, but it's the truth. I want to be intentional about being a part of the change with our new leadership, and I'm really, really proud of the team that I work with, and I say that I work with because I don't feel like I'm their leader. I feel like I'm their partner, and we partner together. I want to uplift what Manny is doing in 7. I want some of what he's doing to spread to other service areas. What my peers are doing across the county, it matters.
I like that. This is gonna sound silly, not that I need to be sold, but I'm sold. It's been, I think I mentioned earlier, I came from the outside sector, and what I remember about the department was that it was almost, it seemed competitive, and I get it, but from service area to service area, it was very competitive. So to have it be unified would be awesome, and to actually inspire that across the service area, to represent the entire department, it would be great. It would be amazing.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that. I know we've talked at length with our peer leadership group as well, that a lot of the work also is in rebranding ourselves, right? And getting the community to, we were perceived a certain way before, and we were more like the Department of Mental Illness. And people forgot that it's like we're the Department of Mental Health.
Exactly.
Yeah, and really doing activities like this, like the podcast, and really getting to know our community, and our community getting to know us, and really seeing that what it takes to be healthy and what's part of well-being and all that. So,
and I think a step in the right direction has certainly been the Peer Resource Center. And I think the formation of the Peer Academy in and of itself, just bringing all of the different service areas that have PRCs together and making sure that we have a consistent message for the community, that we are here, that we are here to provide resources, that we're here to listen.
Yeah. And that's how this episode really came about as well, because we just had our SALT meeting, and part of the discussion was also, the announcements and acknowledging Black History, Black History Month, and what activities are like every agency is doing, how could we be a part of it, even acknowledging just what's going on in our country and where it's been, where we are now, and where it's going. So it really led us to kind of focus on doing an episode regarding Black History Month, and we're happy to have you here, that you can kind of educate all of us a little bit more about Black history. So maybe we can kind of start there as well. If you can tell us a little bit, like, what does Black History Month mean for you, and like, what do you think of when you hear Black History Month?
Well, honestly, what I think of is I think of a time when my children were younger, and kind of making us all stop at the dinner table and talk about and just weekly we would I'd give my kids the task of tell me something about somebody that looks like you that you didn't know. Go find something. And so us having those kind of discussions at the dinner table, on our way to church, or just whatever, bringing it up in family conversations to educate us. If you're not taught, and you just read what you get in a book, but there's so much more rich history, and lots of negative things have happened over the last 3 years, but lots of positive things have happened as well. People have had a desire to really find out the truth. And history is told by the winners. How about
That's
that?
true.
Let's just tell the truth.
That's true.
History is told by the winners. And so you're gonna get one version, but there's always two sides to the story and then the truth. And so when I think about Black history, it's a time to reflect, and it's a time to think about the resilience that a people have, that my race has, the resilience to be a little Black girl from Compton, to be the acting senior deputy in the Department of Mental Health. When I'm a baby boomer, I'm the last of the baby boomers. The public announcements back when I was a teenager was that you're going to get pregnant out of wedlock and be on the county. None of those things happened to me. Duh. I was raised in a 2-parent household, and everybody that I went to school with and graduated from Dominguez High, my entire crew, all of them have degrees, all of them have been successful. Some raised by single mothers, some raised by single fathers, some by 2-parent, but they all grew up in Compton, where the message is usually, oh, it's only negative coming out of there. That's so not true. My cousin is a gynecologist, graduated a year before me. I mean, I could name you a host of people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my Latin family has the same experience. But what Black history means is us just taking a moment to see really how strong we are. The resilience that has come from people working together. When I was a kid, everybody had the right to spank you. Your neighbors, everybody watched out for everybody. Everybody. Neighborhoods aren't like that as much anymore because we're all on the go, and you don't even know your neighbors half the time. But when I grew up, it was okay to walk from Rosecrans Boulevard to Alondra at 6:30 in the afternoon, in the evening, in the summer, at 12, 13 years old. Wasn't worried about getting raped, hit by a stray bullet, none of that. Just, I'm going to see my cousin.
There's so many things that you just said. I'm gonna try to go back as far as I can remember. I love that you said that you all were brought up to find someone that looked like you and find out something different about them. So funny story about me. I was sharing with Manny during the previous podcast that I am Chicano. I just found out I'm Chicano. I grew up in South Central LA, and my family wasn't that culturally. I didn't know anything about my culture, so I grew up like that. And not until I met my wife and my sister's fiance and people who are aware, who educate you and tell you things. I'm I had no idea. Even I make him laugh, right? But even the fact how I say that I'm Chicano. But it's beautiful to see what you're saying is it's right on. There's so much connection there with what you're saying. But it's beautiful to see how you were taught to appreciate it, to acknowledge it, the resilience. That goes a long way. And even what you said reminds me, so many things. My brother told me one time, if he's watching, my brother told me one time, you're not a statistic. And I said to him,
that part.
What do you mean? And he said, you were supposed to have 20 kids by 28 baby mamas, or whatever the terminology is.
Please say it.
And I'm what do you mean? So it took for me a while for it to sink in, that there's a difference there, and that we can achieve great things. We just need to sometimes step up a little bit, and it takes a lot of work, but it can happen. But I didn't mean to drop too into a
No, that's
It
great.
just captured me. I was like, wow, that's
No,
amazing.
stop listening to the narrative. Change your own narrative. Really, I'm a firm believer that a child that has even just one person speaking in their life and loving on them can do absolutely anything. Absolutely anything. So,
And,
you know.
And Theion, something that was actually that kind of hit close to home was having those conversations with your family about, you know, people that have, you know, worked for everything. And I actually read books to my son about Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, other Latin figures that are important to a culture, because I think it's important for him to understand. Even he's gonna turn 3 in April, but you know, when I am not even a first generation immigrant in this country, but my son is now, and so I think it's so important for him to appreciate and to learn the diversity of this country. So that kind of brings me to the question: what's a Black American public figure that inspires you, and why?
So I thought about that question, and honestly, first I'd have to say my own mother. She is not the mayor of Palmdale, which you would think she is. She has pictures posted up with Antonovich, just people. She will be 80 next month, and my mother is retired from Kaiser, nurse, is involved in everything. Toastmasters. She is one of the city's ambassadors. She is at mental health events handing out stuff. She taught after retiring from Kaiser, medical assistant. She'd take kids everywhere to get them jobs. I mean, so my first person would have to be at home. My mom just has this "I'll stop when I'm dead" kind of attitude, and there's more to do. And second, I would have to say Michelle Obama. Recently, I watched her 8 years of being the First Lady of the United States of America, and I thought, I don't know that I could have had the poise, the grace, the elegance, and just the fortitude to deal with the tomfoolery that came her way, and still continue to rise higher when people went low. Michelle Obama is right there for me, because that's a real life person. That's not somebody we're talking about 40 years ago. We're talking about right in this culture, and I think we're either the same age or I'm a year younger than her. So those would be my two people off the top of my head when I read that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. To have somebody like your mom, that's...
Man, you don't know. You don't. Yeah. I mean, really, short, funny story. My mom had breast cancer this past so about 19 months ago, and you know, she had just lost her husband 2 months before, and it was a rough time. And she got some chemo, and she's like, okay, I can do this. And then the second dose, it really took her. It just took her out, and she was over at her house, just like in the bed. And so my sister also was a nurse. She said, come get your mama, because you know she's not acting right. And so we went and we got her and brought her home with us. And my husband began to make her smoothies every day, and he just would just be talking to her. When she kind of got her strength back, she kind of looked and said, you know, I actually almost punked out. What in the world was I thinking? 2 months later, she was on a cruise. 2 months after that, she went back to a class reunion in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, her 50th, 60th, whatever, however, how long ago. A month after that, she went to Aruba. 3 months after that, she went on another cruise. She was like, while I'm here, I'm going to live. And I'm just like, oh my God. So resilience, I see examples of resilience every day. So you just have to keep moving, keep hope alive.
Well, speaking of resilience, one of the things that's part of why we're doing this, right? We're mental health, Department of Mental Health. So, we try to think of different ways of engaging with the community. We've done different things with youth groups, with faith-based organizations. Last month we did our Native American episode where we had some of our folks from American Indian Counseling Center. They did some drumming, some singing. So it's just looking at the various cultures in our group. And, again, this came about also, we talked about this at our SALT meeting, and our community asked for more about Black history, what's being done. Let's share, let's everybody get connected more. So, but we are mental health. So I'm curious as well, if you have any thoughts or any opinion on how we can take in addressing mental health with the Black community.
I would start, I'm going to say two different things. I would start at my age, Manny's age. Manny's younger than me. Put that out there. But I would start. I would start in church. Culturally, just like Latinas, church is solace. It's a safe space. So if you can get your inroads in church, to begin to educate, to begin to tell people everything can't be fixed with a prayer. It's okay to need medication, and I do public announcements like this at my own church periodically. Everything can't be fixed with prayer. You take that lisinopril for your blood pressure, don't you? You didn't pray about it. So, not drastically different.
Yeah.
If you are depressed and you need Effects or whatever, then there's nothing wrong with that. Just kind of trying to remove the stigma. With the younger generation, I would find inroads with music, with things that interest them. Music is a great equalizer. It cuts across everything. It really, really cuts across everything. So I think that's a wonderful space to begin to educate young people about mental illness and tell them it's okay. Specifically, Black women. We have this reputation of being a strong Black woman or a woman, and the reality is that hurts us. Because we're so busy being strong, we don't look at our own self and say when we're hurting. A couple of years ago, we had a women's symposium in Service Area 1, and I spoke on it. It's okay to take off your cape. It's okay. It really is okay to say, I can't do it today. I don't feel like it today. I'm tired. It really is okay. Giving people permission, that space to not be the end all for everything. Latin mothers are very much the same. Personal share, my Thea is Hispanic. Her name is Laura Juarez Williams, and that's how she would tell you. And she's been my aunt since I was 11, so I've just known her all my life, and I believe she even taught at Garfield. But seeing her in my life, and her sisters and her mother, Mama Jane, very similar in terms of just strength. Everything's coming home to the mama, not my boys. It's just this whole thing. The cultures are very, very similar in that way. And reminding them it's okay to say, I'm tired. I'm not cooking today.
Yeah.
There's no tamales, there's no chicken and rice, there's nothing today. Go somewhere else to eat.
Yeah.
Just little things like that. It's okay to take off your cape. I would say that to young, old, middle age, it's okay just to find some boundaries, to be able to say, no, not today.
If I may add, I've just been listening, taking in all this in, and it's what makes you human, right? It's like saying it's okay to be a person. Just let it go for one day. There's only so much you can do, and I think that applies to so many people. And again, I've just been sitting here now listening, I shake my head because I think, as how would I say, Mia Chicano, Matilde is from a different South American country, which I can't remember right now.
Colombia.
So is Manny. I think we all identify with what you're saying. I think it all affects us equally in a way, maybe we haven't been through the same strive as cultures, but very similar. And I think it's part of what impacts us. Even in talking about stigma, when you were talking about how to approach the youth or how to approach the adults, we've been very engaged with our clergy, trying to do more with them, trying to figure out a way to talk to them. Same thing with our youth, which is kind of the whole podcast thing. It was again during our last podcast, which Angela mentioned, that she mentioned to her son that she was going to do a podcast. She's like, I talked to him all day, but when I said the word podcast, he was like, and I think we're not trying, well, it is intentional, but our only intention is to really kind of reach that community that we haven't touched.
Exactly.
Right, to really kind of show them that there's passionate people that care. Beyond the badge, we can actually help you out. And if you reach out, you might just get one of those persons that I'm glad to be surrounded by. I'm just sitting listening.
But even though, like what you're saying, Theion, it's so much bigger. I mean, it's key that we're doing this during Black History Month, but just the commonalities that there are amongst our culture, and especially hearing a leader within our department like yourself talk about that during a time where, as a society, we have so many differences.
They would say we're so different.
There's such a big split right now in our society, what's going on all around us. But to really, if you take that moment, like you were saying earlier, what does Black History Month mean for you? It's like, it's a time to reflect. If people just hit the pause button just a little bit and just kind of reflected on, especially during Black History Month, and just the similarities in our cultures, it's huge. It's huge. Music, you were talking about music, even across genders. We just last week hosted another one of our men's support group meetings, and that was like one of the biggest topics of the group. Everyone was talking about music and different types of music and what it means to you. And for men, sometimes we don't verbalize our feelings all that much. But the music, a lot of the guys are like, it's depending on what you're going through, it might depend on what you're listening to at that moment, we even had one of our group members, a participant, who said, he's like, there's some songs, I have no idea, I can't understand the lyrics, it's in a different language, but the music just speaks to me. And it was just like, we were just saying about how awesome that just music is one of those things that also just crosses so many different cultural barriers.
It does.
And I had to say that men's group, and I mentioned it, was probably one of the, I take away something from every group we have, but that one was very impactful because people really opened up. We had no popcorn, there was no introductions. By now everybody knows me. We really just started talking about music, and it turned into a good way for us to communicate openly, to vent, to share feelings related to music. And it was really cool. And I agree with Manny. Just so many things. I mean, music transcends. You're able to connect. You're able to realize that there's more people around you who are like you, and that if we work together, we could probably make more of an impact than we do divided.
Oh, definitely, most definitely. Think about it. If you are listening to some smooth jazz when you're driving, you're gonna probably do the speed limit. You're not gonna even notice. The moment you change that station and you hear more bounce to the ounce, Roger, or you hear some of that old school, you lean a little different, the gas pushes a little faster.
Just throw the seat back out a little bit more.
It really does. And it's like you have to be cognizant about what you're putting in you, and it really, really does transcend. But it's a way to connect us. It is a way to connect us. You can go to, I'm going to say, a Caucasian church, and that doesn't particularly sing gospel the way Black people sing gospel, but they can sing a song that everybody knows, and everybody, don't matter if you can put a run on the song or not, everybody will respond. Everybody, and it's such a great equalizer. It really is.
Yeah. And I think it's so important because it connects mothers, women who are not mothers, and I have to say that your story about your mother really touched me. I was thinking about my own mother. Haven't seen her every day getting home from work, making dinner. After 10 hours of work, she gets home and she doesn't complain. But part of that too is making sure that she's in tune with herself. And I think music really does that. And I think it's something that I definitely like to try for our youth group. Last week we had a session, and I was telling my colleague after we facilitated, I told her I was barely hanging on. I was on the verge of tears from what some of those teenagers were sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, music is huge. At the group I remember sharing, back when I was a line clinician a few years ago, I ran a group for youth, and it was a probation youth. And one of the things was it was hard to get through to these youth, and one of my points when I really got them to open up was I gave them all a homework assignment that they had to come back the following week with a CD. Now I know that's, at least I didn't say cassette or 8-track, I said a CD. Some of the people watching this are gonna be like, what are CDs? Who knows? And these little discs. But they had to play a song, and the only condition, what didn't matter what song was, but they had to kind of explain to the group why they chose that song, like why they picked to share that song. And there was all these it was a flood of emotions that came. Didn't matter whether it was a young man, a young lady, if they were Native American, Latino, Black, everyone just brought a song. And then it turned into the group asking, can we do this next week again? And I was like, yeah, then this will be for next week. But it is music. It doesn't matter if it's something that's just came out last week or came out 50 years ago. It's music. It speaks to people.
It does.
It's funny again, going back to the group. So during the group last week, I disclosed that I've been playing music since I was a kid. I play guitar, I play drums, and I always had that appreciation. And you're so right. So I grew up in South Central, and I went to Fauché Middle School, and that was my first experience being in a band, in a jazz band, with African American kids, and they could play the drums. And I was so what's the word, blown away, but I felt like I'm never gonna play like that. They are so good. Their chops, college chops, their chops were amazing. And then I went once or twice with my buddies to the gospel church and seen them play, and that is a completely different level of music.
It's an experience. It's an experience. It is.
For me, as a drummer, trust me, I was my head went everywhere. But my point is that the connection that it formed between me and my friends in jazz band, that I learned some of the chops, that I could actually play that type of style, and realizing, there's so much growth in connection, and with the music, all of that is transcended, right? It doesn't matter if you're having arguments. It doesn't matter if you don't agree on certain things. Once you play something, for me, it was like, play that beat again? I think I can do it. But my point is that music goes such a far way. I know it helped me tremendously as a kid. I think I shared with Manny and Matilde, I was a band nerd since I could join band. I was in marching band, the drum, everything, you name it. And now I hope to bring that to my daughter, which she sings.
Oh, I love
That's
it.
awesome.
But my point is, you guys are absolutely right. I'm just sitting here listening because and on so many things that I identify with, what I'm just thinking, yeah, you guys are absolutely correct. This is something that we can definitely do more of.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was also a time where, and there still is to a certain extent, where music wasn't just about pop and beats and stuff. There was those songs of protest too.
Yes.
Those songs that were sometimes in some cultures, it's the way you pass on history as well.
Or messages.
That's true.
Or messages. There's an old Negro spiritual called "Wade in the Water." That was a message. That was a message for slaves escaping, telling people where to go, and there's so much about music, but also about food. Food is also a great equalizer. It really is. You put some food out, and people begin to taste, and it's like, oh my God, food. And people kind of forget even where they are.
Yeah.
There's so many ways for us to connect. As an African American person, somebody would say to me, well, what would happen if you lost your job? I know how to be poor. I know how to make beans and rice taste so good. You are playing with it, and it's like, that's something that cuts across so many of our ethnic and racial groups. Think about Chinese people. They're going to make some rice and they're going to make it do a dance. Hispanics, Jamaicans, peas and rice. Trinidadians call it peas and rice. If you're from the South and you're Caucasian or Black, beans and rice. I mean, people, if we looked a little closer, there's so much more that we have to be similar about
That's right.
than really. As we talk about the Latin and the African American culture being very similar, just this past holiday season, I was in line at Marshall's, and it's maybe 2 days before Christmas, so you know you're gonna be in a long line. And the lady behind me is Caucasian, and we just strike up a conversation, and we start talking about Christmas Eve dinner. And I don't know about you, but I usually have anywhere between 40 to 50 people at my house. Yeah, and we talk about certain family members who come with their Tupperware. Really? I'm already cooking for you. You gotta have dinner for the next day. And you think that that's just you and just your family. This woman behind me says, "Oh, were you at my house? Do you know my family?" And she's starting to talk about, then a Hispanic lady in front of me is kind of giggling. And she said, "We must all know the same family member." And it's just so funny. We tolerated the line because we found so much similarities in our families of, you know, it's the one person who always has seconds and thirds and takes a big plate home that brought a 6-pack of water. Not a case, but a 6-pack. And we just laughed about it, you know, and we just said, you know, you just have to love people through the holidays because that's who they are. And just love on them. But it was very, very funny that all three women had the same stories, and you would have sworn it was the same family, you know. So
it's funny how the traditions and the cultures connect. Again, I'm laughing because I'm envisioning going to my sister's house, or recently I went to my mom's house. She made one of my favorite meals. She made menudo, which is like tripe and like this.
yeah.
So she's like, "Mijo, want to take some home?" In Spanish, she doesn't speak English, and I'm like, "No, Mom, I'm good." She's like, "Come on, take some home. I need a lot." I'm like, "Oh, Mom, I'm good." But I could totally see it. You're so right. And even those traditional foods goes. You know, when I was a kid, I couldn't appreciate it. But now, as an adult, and more so as a father, I so appreciate it. Even like the beans and rice. The other day, I made Sammy for lunch on a Saturday a beans and rice burrito. It was so funny. We were sitting in the backyard. She's having her bean and rice burrito, and it was just so cool to see her as a little baby that she enjoys it. But for me, it was like just an experience as a dad to be able to appreciate that. It's so cool. But you're so right. All these things connect our cultures together, and it's just funny to me to sit here, listen to you, and just take it all in. It's also an experience.
Yeah, I think you can always look at the world for the negative, or you can be intentional about finding something positive. We are all Americans. Our diversity is what makes this country great. Don't let people lie and tell you that's not true. Our diversity is really why this country is great. It's nothing else. Because everybody is important. It's almost like the body. You know, my ear is no less important than my small pinky toe. You only have to break your pinky toe to know that.
Yeah.
You know. So everybody is important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As we're talking about all this, I'm curious. It's like if we have, you know, for some young folks that are watching this, what message would you have for like young Black Americans that maybe, you know, are watching this, curious about Black History Month and mental health and everything?
I would say to young Black children, young adults, love yourself.
That's awesome.
Learn some self-love. Your self-worth is not wrapped up in what you can buy and put on your back, what you can drive, where you live. Nothing is all the things that you can collect. That will all rust. It will go bad. It will go out of style. All of that. Learn self-worth and love yourself. You are incredible. You come from a great nation, and you come from really beautiful, strong stock. Your heritage is strong. Don't let people tell you that we didn't do anything in America. Just like Chinese people, don't let people tell you that you didn't do anything. We get the railroads are there because Chinese people built them. I'm sorry, the White House was not built by my Hispanic brothers yet. Those were Black Masonaries out there. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Learn your own value. Don't get so caught up in who likes you, who doesn't. Like yourself. That's what I would
That's
tell.
awesome. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's important for our youth, for all of us to hear and be aware of, because yeah, we can do so much, but we have to first love ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're so caught up in if they like me or if I get enough tweets. Who cares? Who cares?
And to me, that kind of makes me wonder, as a department, I know that we have different units and everything, but do you think that we're doing enough to kind of engage the Black community in mental health and kind of reducing that stigma? Because I know that it's a strong stigma all around.
Do I think we're doing enough? I think we are headed in the right direction. That's the best way for me to answer that. Will there ever be enough? I don't know. But are we headed in the right direction? Does this administration care? Yes. And sometimes, isn't that really all people need to know, is that somebody actually cares? Somebody's willing to sit down and listen. Somebody's willing to have those uncomfortable conversations. A couple of years ago in Service Area 1, we had Cheryl Griggs, Dr. Cheryl Griggs, come and do a training on implicit bias. And two of my coworkers said, this really made me feel uncomfortable. And I said, why? Did you do any of this? Did you do any of the things that, and they didn't know how to answer. I said, well, I can own that I do some of that. We all have implicit biases.
Mm-hmm.
We all do. The point is to acknowledge them.
Be aware of it, yeah.
To be aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel uncomfortable, do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do something about it. I would say if I'm walking down the street and I see two Latino men with their pants super pressed, maybe they got a little cuff in it, they got a certain brown and tan kind of polo shirt. We used to call them cholos back in the day. Should I be afraid? How about saying, good afternoon, fellas. How you guys doing?
Mm-hmm.
They deserve respect just because they're, or if I see three white men, tats all over, look just got off a bike, bunch of motorcycles. Should I be afraid? Should I assume they're terrorists? I mean, they're gonna. Good afternoon, fellas. How about we just judge people on who they are as opposed to what we see? The same thing for three young little black boys coming home from school with hoodies on. Are they into something? Maybe they're cold and their head is bald. They're bald-headed,
Yeah.
But do you immediately think of something negative? Those are the things that we have to check ourselves, and I think we have to do that daily, because the media and all the things that come at us show us every day that, oh, these are bad, they're bad, they're bad, they're bad, and that's not true. We have to judge people individually. We really, really do. So just being intentional and trying to respect people when you see them.
And I think it's important that you mentioned that we only focus on the negative instead of saying, that to me was very impactful, like saying, hey, how are you? That's, we have to do that every day, but keeping an open mind, a mind of a growth mindset for even ourselves, asking of others what, we should be doing as well.
Absolutely. So we have to be intentional every day with going into Sam's Club, going into Costco. I was going into Sam's, it must have been 2000, the previous president was president, and a man walked in, we were both walking in at the same time, and he had the flag on with the blue line, and my immediate thought is, oh, he's just gonna be rude and nasty. Now, I don't know this man from Hill Beans, okay? But this is, and what the media was like back in round, it was just so polarized, it was so negative. So we're both walking in, he steps back and let me go in front of him, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe not. But I'm still, that's what's in the back of my head. We ended up meeting back in the freezer department where the fruit is, and it's cold in there. And I am a grape lover, but I'm specific about my grapes. I'm just not gonna take any grapes, so I'm digging, and I'm climbing up to try to get them. And he says to me, I didn't realize it's the same man, hey, can I help you? how Theion said, "Oh, see, look at how you behave. Look at how you behave." Not only was he polite, but he was trying to help you.
Yeah.
We ended up having a 5-minute conversation. So much so that he asked me for my number. I was like, "Oh, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I had this negative thought. Oh, you only believe in the blue line. Oh, you know." And this man was just as nice, just as nice. He helped me get my grapes because they were stacked high. You know, I'm on my ticket. I'm literally, I am that great person, but too old to be fake. I said,
There you go.
I'm too old to be fake.
But again, I think also you have to also welcome the compliments and accept them, because it is part of your leadership as well, Theion. I mean, people have ideas. People have had ideas for years. But it isn't until leadership starts to listen, and not just listen, but then lifting those ideas up, that really when we start seeing change and progress. And you know, again, I love the words that you shared with us today. It's been inspirational for me today. It's made my day. But even just the person that you are, and even just when we started this whole conversation, right? Like, could you introduce yourself? And you're saying, just you were a black girl growing up in Compton, to now being the acting senior deputy of the largest public mental health system in the country.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's huge.
But it's huge.
That's huge. Just your person alone carries a huge message for the public, and hopefully there's somebody who's watching this who can take that from this.
You can be this for sure. For definitely for sure.
But definitely wanted to take this opportunity. Thank you for being here. I hope
My
this
pleasure.
isn't the first. Maybe
Yeah, I hope I get to come back.
Yeah,
I hope I get
absolutely.
to come back. This was so much fun.
Maybe next time you come, I don't know, we'll have a studio.
You never know.
No, but definitely, I'm really grateful when Manny mentioned you were coming on, or when you agreed at the meeting. It's just something really cool. This is still something new that we're doing, but we're grateful that we're on episode 13.
13 now.
13.
Which is really cool. I always joke and I tell the chief that I remember thinking when we shot the first episode, man, I'm gonna be in trouble. This isn't going nowhere. But little by little, it's built. I love to see the progression. I love the fact that you can tell how everybody's personality changed. I wasn't an on-camera person whatsoever. I just wanted to do the editing and the shooting. That's all I wanted to do. But I think doing this provides us great opportunities to meet people like you, find out more about culture, find out what that means to you, and then communicate it to the community in a way that they can receive. You know, my interpretation is that so often community members feel like they're being talked to instead of something is being shared with them. So I think our intentional approach with this podcast and a lot of what we're doing is to actually intentionally share with them, so that when they do walk into the lobby, they see, oh wow, that's the guy who I just saw walking.
Yeah, that's dope.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so and so. She's helping me, and I think that goes a long way because it makes that human connection for everybody. But again, thank
That
you so
piece
much
is
for
beautiful. That piece right there is beautiful. Just, I mean, can you imagine people coming in and seeing Manny like, hey, I saw him.
He's so photogenic, by the way.
He is so beautiful.
A bunch of times, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well,
You didn't know DMH pays for an entire makeup crew that's right here, all right off to the side?
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being
I really have enjoyed this. Really, whatever I can do to support this and its expansion, I'm on it.
We appreciate it.
I really am. This is beautiful, and I love and this is my last point, that you said we're not talking to people, we're sharing.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I hope something I said today made somebody feel like, you know what, I can.
Absolutely.
I can't remember exactly how many viewers are on the YouTube channel, on the DMH YouTube channel, but we'll upload it. And
It gets around.
Yeah.
Alright.
It's a good message. It's a good message, and at least from my perspective, it's a good change in the way things are painted and the way we're communicating with the community.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we want DMH, people to know DMH cares.
absolutely.
Definitely.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all.
All right.
Bye, everyone.